Good morning. I hope you're doing well this cold morning in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. I don't know about the other parts of the country, but do join us. Let's make it a bit warm. We've already started warming up right here in studio. It is Tuesday, and this is usually the day that we get to sit down in a social hour and just talk about all those social issues that will make you become a better social person. And this morning, we want to talk about deal breakers in a relationship. I know this is something that has been talked about over and over, but every time we discuss this particular subject, there is something new, a little twist that usually comes, and it has been requested that we talk about deal breakers this particular morning. And we just want to understand the basics and what are some of those immediate deal breakers, the drop-dead deal breakers that you can list for yourself. And we will be understanding from our panel here in studio. Already I have two ladies with me. One has been missing in action. Lakini amerudi. We hope amerudi na mazuri.
Good to see you, my ladies.
Good to see you. Good to have you back.
Yeah, I had to rest. You know, same way the body is working, same way the body needs to rest. So it was good being on leave. I was watching you guys while I was at home. You've presented to the fullest. Feels good to be back.
So ulikuwa viwa. Hope you were enriching you, by the way.
Mbaya sana. Kwanza hii ya mwisho ya co-parenting iliweza mbaya, by the way. Hapo sana sana.
All right.
It was really awesome, yeah.
All right. Cutie is back, fresh ideas loaded, and she's here with us today. So something to look forward to. And Roberta.
Hello.
Always. Good to see you this morning.
Before we make shout out to the makeup artist.
Great.
I think we never give them enough credit. We forget. And they make, you guys look so beautiful.
Thank
and I
you.
also feel like I look really, really pretty. And I'm happy to be here. Ni venye leo kuna baridi, man. But I'm really, really happy. I'm healthy. I feel good. I'm excited to be here.
Great. We're excited to have you too. And we also have CJ Atemo with us in studio. CJ, good to have you. Good to see you.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
How is the morning taking you? They're saying it's cold. I don't know about you.
Well, just drizzly, but yeah, not too bad.
Okay, we are managing.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So today, guys, we're talking about deal breakers. And I want us to begin from the very basic. It's always good to start there. And CJ, this is because if we start without understanding Cutie nitampatia roses zake tukiendelea opportunity yake, yeah? Tunataka kwanza, let's understand what is it that we are talking about, deal breakers, and then I'll also get to hear from the ladies from their perspective, because I've heard that what could be a deal breaker for me may not necessarily be a deal breaker for somebody else. So I know we all have like varied, but the general view of what a deal breaker ought to be, because sometimes to overthink, at times maybe somebody may think we are petty because of the things we call deal breakers. But from where you sit, CJ, what is a deal breaker?
Well, because you said what it should be and what it is and not what it is. It should be something that, if the other person does, says, behaves in a manner that compromises your values at the very core, and is not willing to make any amendment to it. So generally a deal breaker is something you cannot live with. And that depends on different people. For somebody else, they may not live with being shouted at. Somebody else may not live with being cheated on, or whatever it may be. It's just generally what you cannot live with. But then the question is, what is the substratum of this that you can't live with? Why does that become so big for you? And that now depends on personalities, experiences, how people have been socialized. But it should be something that, it shouldn't just be something that is on the surface that, he didn't pick my call, so that's a deal breaker or something. It should be something that touches you to the core of your belief, something that even if you try to live with, it will be like wearing a shoe that is smaller than your foot, and it will keep pinching and pinching and hurting you. And no matter how hard you try in walking, you just won't walk. So it's something you cannot overlook. It's something you cannot ignore. It is something that literally irritates the core of you or works at the core of you. And somewhere along the line, it will break you. So before it breaks you, it would rather than break the relationship.
Break the relationship. All right. So, Cutie, you've been away. You've done a lot of soul searching. I had to go there.
True.
I had to go there. Umejita mkutano. Like right now, I know when you and yourself muko in a very stable relationship. When you heard that we are going to be talking about deal breakers, what came into your mind?
What came into my mind is something that I cannot live with. You know, that one thing that someone does, and deal breakers, even outside relationships, even friendships, you know, there's that one thing that someone does each and every time they do it, and you just, I mean, you go nuts, you know? Like you just feel like, I can't take this anymore. And most of the time we overlook these deal breakers. Someone might do something, you overlook it, you forgive it, but in real sense, that's the real time that you're supposed to walk away, because it becomes a habit. Once you overlook that deal breaker, once you overlook it, they'll start doing it over and over again. So for me, a deal breaker is something that I cannot live with, and I think we overlook it most of the time, and that's why it affects most relationships, friendships, and even sometimes family, because someone will do something to you, and then you overlook it, and then now it becomes a habit over and over again. They do it, and it takes a toll on you emotionally, mentally, you know. You start becoming someone else, someone that you're not. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you feel like you're not yourself? You just feel like, this is not me, and if I stay here, I will become someone bad, you know. They bring out the worst in you, and then now it looks like you're the bad person. So I think the best thing to do is just to walk away. Once that thing happens, whatever it is for you, you know, it's different for everyone. It could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be physical. So it depends. There's some people who can overlook cheating. There's some people who can overlook abuse, like physical or emotional. And you know, from way back, we never used to know there's something called emotional abuse. We used to think, it's okay.
And even financial.
We never used to understand, but nowadays we are more aware of it. Long time ago, it used to be physical abuse, like domestic abuse. People used to think that's the only thing in a relationship that is a deal breaker, but nowadays we are more aware of emotional abuse. Someone will abuse you emotionally. They won't talk to you, you know, they'll frustrate you, and you'll end up thinking it's something to do with you, like you're the one who has done them wrong. And when they start talking to you, you think, oh my God, I mean, they're good books. You know, it comes out like a favor, like they're doing you a favor. But in real sense, emotional abuse is something that nowadays people are more aware of it. Financial abuse, you know, someone will use their finances to actually make you feel like, you know, that they're God, that they're everything in your life. So they'll make you need them so much, so that by the time you're in that relationship, you've stayed there for 10 years not knowing that that has been abused. So it depends at how you look at each and every abuse differently, emotional, mental, financial. And I'm glad nowadays people are aware of all this emotional abuse and everything, you know. We are more aware, so yeah, I'm glad.
Self-aware. She has some good pointers there. Roberta, what is that thing that, you know, no matter how good that relationship is, you know, you'd rather just wacha ikae. This is a no-no for you, Roberta. What is a deal breaker from where you sit?
That's a good question. For me, I think the baseline is just disrespect. Any form of disrespect, whether it's kuongeza sauti, kuniongelesha, being condescending, cheating, any sort of disrespect. If I ever feel like my opinions are not valued in this situation, or my presence is not valued and appreciated, or I'm not accepted and fully loved, and this doesn't just go in romantic relationships. I mean, even in spaces, even in environments, I think it's best for me to always just remove myself, especially if it's something I cannot fix or work on. That's definitely a deal breaker for me. But in romantic relationships, I think I say respect because that's the most basic thing anyone can ever owe to you, even just a friend. And just listening to CJ and QT speak, I started seeing that then it means you really need to work on your core. You know what CJ was saying. Yeah. Because all these things go in line. If someone is crossing your boundaries, it's because they're overlooking things that you believe for yourself, like your internal belief system. And that's okay. People's beliefs vary, and the things people follow or allow are different. And that's why we need to have these conversations. But you can't begin to have the conversations until you work on your core, you work on your belief. You have to have a standard set of Mimi, I don't like being shouted at. Nobody shouts at me. I don't even shout at myself. I'm very patient and kind with myself and with everyone else. So then if you know it within yourself that you cannot accept that, you will not accept it even for other people. And it will not vary because that's your core. You won't let other people shout at you and then other people can't shout at you. It's a universal rule for you that if anyone gets disrespectful, that's it. And I like how these conversations, no matter where we go or what we're talking about, they always come back to your own core values, like who you are as a person and who you are within.
And what you can allow and what you can't allow.
Exactly. So it means you have to be very, very brutal with the way you protect your heart, your mind, your soul, your body. The things you allow for yourself, the things you accept and tolerate. It has to start like from who you really, really are. What are you going to stand for? What goes for you? What is acceptable in your life? So you really have to strengthen your core. You have to work on yourself so much that when people introduce things that you do not agree with, you're able to contest, or you're able to ask questions, or you're able to gauge and find out, is that something I'm for? Is that something I like? Is that something I can accept? If no, you have a very definite no, it's not Tati. You can be swayed or you can be coerced into changing your mind into things that you do not allow or accept. So I love, all that just to say, I love how these conversations always come back to like, you have to work on yourself. You can't hepa, uwezi hepa. Whether uwezi hepa, you have to work on yourself.
But then, CJ, how do you get to that space that Roberta is describing, especially when it comes to a romantic relationship? There is emotions involved, there is passion, there is, you know, they say love is blind. When you're so much consumed and you are in the heat of the moment with this person, there is that urge to be selfless, you know, allow certain things for the sake of the relationship, you know, let them in regardless of how they treat you. There's some situations where you find people really missing the point. She's describing the aspect of really standing your ground and saying, I'm not going to take this from this person. But when you're in love,
It's a rules, they go out the door.
How do you balance?
You know, I think love is a decision.
Yeah.
I actually think love is a decision. Where you direct your mind determines the kind of emotions you feel. If you decide right now to think about an unpleasant situation, you will draw out of yourself very unpleasant emotions right now. If you've ever lost a loved one or had a painful experience before, and then you start thinking about it right now, you might probably go back into the emotion of that particular moment because those emotions are welled up and bottled in your subconscious. So it's how you direct your mind. Now, I may look at Roberta, and when she's talking, I sit over here, she's a beautiful lady with a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do with that information is dependent on what I decide to think. I might choose to say, this is a good girl to go out with. Now I've begun to entertain thoughts. People don't fall in love. They decide to get into love.
Yeah.
They decide.
I fell in love with this person, you know?
They literally decide because you begin to focus on certain things and then you begin to entertain certain thoughts about that person.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting here with QT every day, but no matter what she thinks about me, she will think, well, that guy is married. So she will never then entertain certain thoughts towards that direction, which then will make sure that whatever feelings she may feel will die. So to even say that you just fell in love is to become irresponsible. It is to become irresponsible. It is to say that you have no control over certain things.
So you can't, falling in love, you're like,
bad.
Look,
nothing
you
like
can
falling
be
in love.
attracted. You can be attracted and you can have those initial emotions, but then you have a decision to make. You can decide not to follow through with them. That is, when you follow through, that is a decision that you have made, because then you have to pursue, you have to connect, you have to communicate, you have to give your time and brood over this person so that it grows. You don't just fall in love from nowhere unless it is infatuation, which may be a very different thing. So from the very essence of it, we've got to learn that we make decisions about our lives. And if we're making decisions, the quality of decisions that we make determine the quality of life that we live. So if I am going to live a better life, I need better decisions. But the better decisions also depend on the kind of, and the quality and the quantity of information that I have. That will require me to be exposed a bit more because I may be very narrow. Every time I've come here, over time, I will hear different perspectives because I have my own world. Cutie has her own world. You have your own world. Bobby has her own world. When we come in, then you get the perspective of another world and you realize, well, whatever you know in your world is not everything. Exposure helps you to get more knowledge and sometimes better quality knowledge. So when you expose yourself to different things, different people, different spaces, to books, to magazines, to podcasts and all of that, you are helping yourself. And even the person who's watching right now, they're helping themselves. But you've got to be intentional about that. You've got to tell yourself, I am not all-knowing, and I have not reached the apex of my growth. And because I want to be a better person, not even for the person that I'm relating with or dating, just for me, I want to make better decisions and have better quality life and attract better quality people, I'm going to be working on myself. Emotionally, mentally, intellectually, just the same way we also go out physically into the gym. Sometimes we don't take care of the emotional aspect much. People will think about their careers, so they will go back to school and build themselves. They will think about their health, so they will go into the gym and they will be on a diet. When it comes to emotions, we just let it flow and say, I fell in love. That's a bit careless because generally, your entire well-being rests on that emotion. And if this place, because the emotion, how you were emotionally, will determine how you will show up at work, how you'll show up anywhere else, how you'll show up in the gym or whether you will go to the gym at all. If today you didn't feel like coming here, I tell you, it doesn't matter how bright your mind was. You wouldn't. So it is a bit, and I'll use that word again, I'll use it carefully, it is a bit careless.
Okay.
It is a bit careless not to intentionally try to grow yourself emotionally.
All right. You've really expounded that. I'll come back to you on the second part of the question that was, how do you balance? You're in love with this person. Doesn't matter whether you failed or you chose, or but you're already in love in a relationship. In love, you know, you're in love and you realize this person.
It was an accident.
There are certain things they're doing that you're not comfortable with, but you're trying to balance the passion and the emotion that you have towards them, and you're really not in a space where you can stand your ground and say no to these, hurtful things. But let me come to you, Cutie. You know, we always think about deal breakers as these big things like cheating, like, let's begin from these little things that people take for granted that end up growing and becoming very disastrous for somebody and their personality. From where you sit, what are those things, if you were to speak to somebody who maybe could be going through some things they feel, hii tu ni kawaida, it will pass, it will go. What are some of the things that you'd mention as examples of things to really be careful about in case they're happening in a romantic relationship?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because sometimes we think it's the big things that really affect relationships and they are deal breakers, but it can be something as, let me quote unquote, little as someone disrespecting you in terms of you're speaking your opinion, but they wouldn't let you talk. Someone is shouting, they're raising their voice at you when you're trying to tell them something, And it could be either spouse, not necessarily the man, it could be even the lady. They're shouting at you. Even when the kids are there, you're trying to just, talk to them, say your opinion, but they're disrespecting you by not actually letting you speak your voice. It could be in front of people. Have you ever been maybe in a setup of people and you're trying to express yourself, but your spouse is there putting you down in front of everyone? By the way, they're like, you can't talk about this. You're not a woman, so you wouldn't know how we feel, or you're not a man, so you're not supposed to speak in front of people. It's those quote unquote, they might look like little things, but they're actually not little things. But most of the time, we will overlook them because I'd be like, okay, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not supposed to talk about it. It could be like the dress code in the morning. You've just woken up. Maybe you're dressing up. I'm coming on TV, or I'm having a function. I'm going somewhere, and then the man would be like, why are you wearing that short dress? Why are you looking like that? Why are you putting on too much makeup? It's those little things that little quote unquote happening in the house. People are not seeing them. People out here, they're thinking, oh, these guys are couple goals, these guys are okay, But in real sense, there are those things that happen behind closed doors that people are not aware of. And I would call that emotional abuse.
Even as you continue, because I want to get you clearly.
Yes.
Does it mean that one time your partner will tell you you're wearing a short dress, me, I'm out, hey, you can't talk to me like that?
No, you can't.
Because I just want to understand where you're coming from.
No, it depends the way they're addressing you. You could, it's the way you actually talk to me. Let me correct that. It's the way you actually address me. You could address me in a manner like, hey baby, you know, enye hizi ngo fupi, mina feel too like, you know, it's the way, it's the manner you actually speak to someone. And that's why I was explaining and say it's actually emotional abuse. This person could be telling you things over and over.
So it has to be habitual.
Some of them, cheating cannot be habitual. Or maybe physical.
Am I still pulling that one?
Or, you know, like physical abuse. When someone hits you, you can't wait for the second or the third or the fifth time, you know, but God forbid, but you could end up in a coffin, you know, by the time, because you're forgiving something. There are those things that you can forgive or even speak to your spouse and say, by the way, I didn't like the way you addressed me yesterday. I didn't like the way you raised your voice yesterday. You see, the way someone addresses you, and I loved what Bobby said, disrespect. Disrespect comes in so many ways, Safin. Someone could tell you something, but you'd be like, hey, by the way, you're very right, you know. I could approach you and say, hey, Safin, by the way, ABCD. So I could be like, hey, by the way, akona point. But there's a way someone can really address you and just be like, hey, did you have to shout? Did you have to say that to me? So some things are habitual. Some things take time to actually work on them, because you cannot be perfect. If you get into a relationship, there's a way you used to. Unajua kuna watu wasemaga, mimi nakuaga hivyo, but you can work on that. Huwezi sema unakuanga hivyo. You can actually work on your behavior. So some things could be habitual, like they happen all the time. And some things could be, if you punch me, I cannot forgive that. I just decide, you know what, I will not give you another chance to punch me again. So it really depends from where you're sitting, you know your person. And when you're dating someone, when you actually meet someone, utajua tu behavior zake. There's a way they will treat you the first time and you're like, hey, I like that. Or the second time it happens, you start learning, oh, this is actually his behavior. This is actually him. And there's some things people just pretend. Someone pretends not to care, but they actually deep down, they actually do care. So it's actually up to you from where you're seated. It's up to you to actually learn that person and then be able to tell, this is pretense, this is the reality that it is. It's actually up to you. And if you allow things to happen, Safin, if you allow something to happen the first time, the second time, the third time, now it's your mistake, because they say mara ya kwanza hiyo si makosa, lakini mara ya pili, ya tatu na ya nne, hiyo sasa imekuwa sasa ni too much, you know. Yes.
You know what you say is important. You take your time to learn this person. And I relate that with what CJ said earlier. Love is actually a choice. You decide. And in that season of deciding is where you see what you can take and you can't take. It's these people who fall in love that go with the flow. You just decide that you've fallen in love with this person, and then you end up discovering certain things about them along the way, things that you didn't see initially. But if you're deliberate about who you want to be with, you'll begin to really like look at them and get to learn who they are and how they treat you, what their worldview about certain things are, and you will decide for yourself, is this what I want? So love is work. It doesn't just happen. Roberta, as you pick from where she has left, there's just this pressing need for us to understand, what is it that would make us, you know, take that final shot and say, this is it. It doesn't matter how many years you know, you've been together. It doesn't matter how much you've invested as a couple. It doesn't matter. All this has to go because of this one thing that has. What are some of those things for you? The practical examples of things that you feel people should really be careful about.
And you know, when you really, really love yourself, making these decisions is not as difficult as people think it is. It's just as simple as you want to eat a fruit, the fruit is rotten, so you throw it away. You won't start thinking, oh my God, this fruit, I love it. I used 50 bob. It's just automatic. Your standard is that you can't eat rotten fruits. That's it. There's no discussion, there's no deliberation at, oh, what if I make puree, what if I make a Z? Kama imespoil, imespoil. So when you keep working on your self-esteem and loving and trusting yourself, making these decisions is gonna be very easy. Whatever your deal breaker is, at whatever level it is, when something happens that you do not accept for yourself, you'll easily recognize it. Utarealize, uchali nilimwambia napenda akiniongelesha, napenda akicommunicate, napenda akinitext, akiniambia pali yuko, vitu anafanya. I just like the communication, the consistent communication. It could be that maybe you have an anxious attachment style, and you need for the people in your life to really, really show up for you and communicate, because it helps you stop being anxious. It helps you relax better when you know what's happening. But then this person has complete disregard for your mental health. They do not care that you get worried when they don't communicate. You see, if once you start noticing that pattern, I've told him, I've explained to him, and it could be that maybe they're taking it as you're insecure. Cutie anapenda nimcall kila saa. Kwani anataka kujua kila kitu nafanya. Anataka. Na sasa hizo cutie ame-explain. Si ati nakufuata ama nataka kujua rada yako. It just helps me relax better when I'm comfortable. And it's not just you, it's about everyone. It's about my mom, my brother, my sister. I like knowing my people are safe. They're fine. I like checking in with people to know that, you know, even if we haven't talked in the morning, you know, just that, it's communication from your part. But this person decides to disregard what you're going through.
But it has to be something that you have expressed yourself.
You have to communicate. That's something, because I like telling
that
women.
They know.
Yeah, because women always expect men to just, kwani he can't reason, or kwani he can't, you know, think about. I'm calling myself out because I do the same thing all the time. Especially when I get pissed off, I always reach this point where I'm like, but I've told you 4 times. I've told you. But you see, communication can never be enough. You can never tell someone enough times. People are going through their own things. Sometimes comprehension is very difficult. Sometimes understanding things from someone's point of view is not as easy. So please never hold back from communicating as much as you need to. Communicate, keep saying, keep telling people exactly what you need, how you need it. The people who love you and care about you, they will not feel disturbed. They will not feel like you're nagging or like you keep repeating yourself. If anything, they will really, really try their best to understand you and to reach you on your level so that they can teach you. But you see, even with that, it definitely has an expiration date. I can't keep repeating the same thing for years and years. You have to show the intention and effort of you want to learn, you're interested to do better. I need to see effort coming from you of changed behavior. Like you used to never call, now you're calling once a day, and then now maybe you can move to twice. And you know, there has to be gradual improvement with whatever it is that we're trying to fix, and it has to be very intentional. So I'd say that all this, just, you have to make sure that you work on yourself. Ukisha jijenga we mwenyewe, easy decisions ni rahisi sana. Mtu anaweza kuja kushautie na maybe you used to accept that behavior. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic household where everyone used to shout, and now you're able to communicate. When you raise your voice at me, it takes me to this place where I'm unable to come from. So could we try and improve? And you know, human beings are very habitual. They might shout next time, and then they might apologize, and then next time maybe they won't shout, but like you'll see the restraint and how they acknowledge such changes, acknowledge changed behavior, acknowledge effort. We're all human beings, we make mistakes, we repeat some things out of habit, but something that's very important is the intentional improvement. You have to see the action. See stories zati. Sawa cutie nimesikia anda kukall. Alafu sele siko hapo, it's cutie anatakanga ni kila saa. You know, you really, really have to be intentional with relationships. Like you just said, relationships are work. I think people think I'm hot, you're hot. Let's date. It just look nice on Instagram. And then they start dating. Now they have these goals to reach because they've seen kina Nania buying land and cars and see what. Inanza pressure. You guys do not even know each other's core beliefs. You don't know what you like about each other. You just know that Cutie is really beautiful. She has many followers. I want to be seen with her. If she posts me like this, people will start following me. And that's how people actually date. True. People date for aesthetics. Really? Yes. How will we look together on social media? What will people say about us? How will people think? I can't date someone who's not hot. What will people, you know, those things, maybe they're very, very, people link up for simple things as pictures or Instagrams.
Really? And we're here complaining that love doesn't work. Yet we are getting into this relationship for the wrong reason.
Yeah, or you meet, you guys like each other today. Tomorrow, because all your friends are dating and you guys were the only third wheelers, let's do this. You don't know anything about each other's religions. Now, 5 months down the relationship, you're arguing about, I told you I'm a Catholic. Yeah, I told you I don't believe in God. You see, these are things that you should talk about even before
you choose to really
even before. Nakwambia, hata sijui wase wanna get into relationships for such wrongly, and then that's why now they start asking, how do we have these conversations? What do you mean, how do you have these conversations with someone who touches your body and gets inside? What do you mean? That's supposed to be like the basic, even before they get to experience you intimately, they should have been able to talk to you.
True.
It's supposed to be such an easy thing. So when I hear some people asking some questions, nashanganga tu, umedate 4 months,
na bado mjuani.
hauwezi hata muuliza juu ya ati mbona hakutextingi, because venye ata react, ata get defensive, ata shout. And why are you staying in a situation where you don't feel listened to and heard and accepted and understood? It literally hinders everything.
Yeah.
Because if at home your wife doesn't listen to you, you carry it, you go to the office, you start treating all women, it's like women don't listen. You will start experiencing, you'll start projecting it onto even your kids, other people that you talk to, other spaces that you go to. Your friends are wondering, Safina anakuanga amejam kila siku, kumbe ni chali yake, anamkasirisha, but because you don't even have the space to be able to have these simple, basic conversations.
Yeah.
It's, how do I ask him? Bro, just ask him. If you can't, then
You know, one thing you're
that's the
saying
wrong
that's
relationship.
also very key, that phase before you guys actually decide to be together
Yeah.
is
Should be
really,
discussed.
really
Like on a
important.
talking stage.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations you have, the topics you discuss, the things
Yeah.
you say during that time
Yeah.
will actually determine how that relationship will
Na unajua hiyo ndo part watu pretend
Nowadays
sana.
it doesn't
stage.
happen. You're still
Yeah.
squeezy. They just jump in.
That's the part people are doing PR, like they're trying to show you I do
The
my
best
hair every
version
week,
of
I look nice,
themselves.
I always have makeup. Then now it gets deeper and you guys have
Alright.
to have real conversation.
I want us to also just continue with this conversation, CJ, and to take you back a bit. How do you objectively look and see this deal breakers? And the reason why I'm using this objectively is because when you're making these decisions and you're so much in the heat of the moment, you really connected with this person, you feel like there's so much to lose, you tend to like become blind to certain things. How do you sieve objectively and also share with us your thoughts on some of the most disastrous deal breakers in a relationship that people should stop ignoring? Like today, make that bold decision of really loving yourself more than anything else.
I think when it comes to disasters, Kitty will handle them better. When we started, we talked about things that you cannot live with as the deal breakers. So even when I'm sieving through this and sifting, I've got to ask myself, can I live with this or can I not? And that has to do with, again, my personality, my belief system, how I am socialized, my culture, the society that I belong to, and the things that they hold, where I want to go in life. Because sometimes, for example, I may want to progress myself career-wise and other things, and then you meet somebody who just wants you to be at home, for example, a housewife, but then you believe that you need to grow yourself. So this may not be a cultural thing, it may not be a belief system thing, but it touches on a core thing because you're not cut out to be a housewife and you feel this is going to be a problem because when you will decide that you want to go and work, you will always have issues. So you just know this will not work. We will fight about it every day. It's not something that is going tomorrow. So it's got to be something you cannot live with, and it's got to be something that is a bit long-term. It has long-term effects. For example, if we disagree today on the meal to take, that's not a long-term thing. Yeah. That's just something for the now. And it doesn't have long-term effects. But when it comes to where will we live, do we have children or not? You're getting into a relationship and one person wants to have kids, the other one doesn't want to have kids. You will fight forever about that. That is a long-term effect. It is about how you manage your money. This is something that you will keep facing every single day. How you relate with your in-laws, you'll keep on dealing with that. They're not going anywhere. So when it comes to deal breakers, it is things that you cannot live with, yet they are things that are present constantly.
They're not going away.
They're not going away. So this is a decision you will keep on having to make every day, and it will be a source of conflict daily. And because you're not signing up for war, me feel like, look, instead of us fighting about this every day, then I'd rather not. So it's not supposed to be something that was just momentous, just a feeling that you had at that particular moment, and it's not something that is going to repeat itself. And again, it shouldn't be something that really didn't touch on your core, because you'll have a lot of disagreements, you'll have a lot of conflict, you'll have a lot of diversity in opinion and thought, divergent opinions, but you've got to ask yourself, can I live with this? If you cannot, and then it is something that constantly stares at you, then that would be a deal breaker. And sometimes you don't even have to wait until you feel bad about it. It's just that assessment that you make, and you listen to the person, the way they talk. They may not even have gotten to the place where they've disrespected you. I love that thing that Bobby talked about, because I feel respect is the basis of all relationships, all of them. And it may not have gotten there, but while you are dating, taking coffee or out on a drink, you listen to their thinking. You listen to their views. And you want to date this person, but you hear them talk about, women nowadays are like this, or like this, or men are this. They've not even shown it to you. But now you can pick their thoughts. And this cannot go with what I think. It just will not work. So some of those things need to end before they start.
Yeah.
Because you have picked it. You have picked it, and there's no way you're going to change this thing, and there's no way that person will change you, so you just know it from the very beginning. Like, well, I feel attracted, but hey, I'm not getting in. There's a way it makes me feel. And if a behavior makes you feel anxious, unsafe, unsettled, insecure, worried, gets you into a panic, gets you into fear, where you actually feel, I need to address this thing, then you begin to ask yourself, how will they react? I'm afraid to talk about it. If all these negative emotions are being elicited because of something that somebody's doing, you are in trouble. And if they're not willing to work on that, and if they don't see any need to work on that, because there are also people who will be like, but that's me, I can't change it. That's arrogance already. If they respect it, you deal with it. That means this person does not think that you are relating from the same plane. They feel that you're coming into this relationship needy, and so because you're needy, whatever you are given, you need to take. So if I give you little attention, take it. If I give you little time, take it. If I don't give you any time, just take it. Whatever it is that I give you, be satisfied with that. That's a lot of abuse. So, and I think that most of us see these red flags from the very start. But because I said love is a decision, we just decide and say, you know what? I think I'll work around it. I think he or she will change. But we see these things. We see these things. Internally, our alarm systems just go off.
You know when you see that.
But you decide not to. Sometimes because you have broken up with somebody else, and this is the first person who has come around you, and your ex moved on, so you don't want to look like you're lonely. Sometimes because you have waited for so long, there's pressure from family and society, so you feel like, well, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. Sometimes you just want to have the idea of having somebody in your life. Sometimes it's because you're a rebounder, and so you're just going to cling on everything, the monkey business. You're going to be clinging on anything that comes up. And so sometimes we get into it not even for the person, but just because we can't stand by ourselves and because we want to keep an image. So we will feel like, okay, let me just stay in there. You see, there's all this crazy talk that you'd rather cry in a Range Rover than, it's so nonsensical.
On a bicycle.
It's so nonsensical. So somebody will feel like, okay, well, there's that, but at least, I'm being provided for. Most of the time, what we run to is determined by what we are running from. Most of the time. So if poverty is what I'm running from, then I will get into an abusive relationship with somebody who has money because the only thing I'm fixed on is running away from poverty.
And just to add on,
I know, tukinini.
If poverty is what you're running from, Okay.
It's where you'll end up. And I like everything CJ has said and what Roberta has said, but just to add on it, I think it's when you're starting out with someone, I think the way we've all agreed on, just take your time to know someone. You remember when we had that conversation about red flags? Remember the time I said about butterflies? When you start feeling those butterflies in your body, that's anxiety. You know, that's something that is telling you, the way CJ has said, it's an alarm that is going off. Your instinct is telling you, don't do this, don't do this. But we confuse that with falling in love, sliding in love, you know. You're thinking, oh my God, I've never felt butterflies in my stomach. But it's anxiety that starts getting into you. So really take your time learning someone. Take your time. Go for those coffee dates. You see, nowadays the problem is we skip that. Right. We skip that part of dating someone, getting to know someone, spending time with someone. Nowadays, we just, you know, jump to the other phase, and now it's a relationship. And once you get intimate with someone, you start feeling like, I can't go back. I imagine I owe him, I owe her, like we've already gotten intimate. So if she's gotten intimate with me, this is already a relationship. They don't even talk about, are you my boyfriend, are you my girlfriend? This name babe is thrown around. Nowadays people don't discuss, by the way. No, it's just babe.
Once find yourself.
Once we get intimate, Safin, it's just like, hi babe, by the way, babe Leo. You see, that conversation starts from there. And then now you can't go back and start asking, oh my God,
what are we?
What are we? You see, you're even afraid to ask this guy, what are we? Because if he says, we are nothing, we're just friends, and then you're like, but I got intimate with you, you owe me. I'm your girlfriend.
In your house.
No, but I've been in your house, I've been to your place, I washed your clothes, I did your dishes, I cooked for you. You know, this is, nowadays it's just different, Safin. I mean, we miss the good old days. There were no phones, there were no nothing. I mean, our parents, I think they experienced the best relationships ever because that time it was pure. And as CJ said, it is a decision right now. If you decide to get intimate with someone, you know what you're doing. And I kind of think it's manipulative, Safin, because you're trying to manipulate this person into getting into a relationship with you. You're definitely coming from someone who has really hurt you. You're coming from a hurtful relationship. So you're getting into a rebound with this one. Like, you need to forget every hurt that happened to you. And you also want to prove to this other person, but then you thought, if you leave me, I'm not going to get anyone.
Moving on.
I'm moving on. So you are the problem. I am not the problem. But in real sense, you're not realizing that you're hurting yourself getting into a rebound, because the same problem that was there, actually maybe the problem could have been you. So you need to work on yourself first, heal first, get to work on yourself. Then from there now, if you get into a relationship, please just take time to know someone. Go for those dinner dates. Nowadays we don't have dinner dates, Safin. Dinner ni kupika kwa hao. Nenda kwa nyumba yake mnapika. So try at least to have those coffee dates, dinner dates. Just go for something. And I'm not saying it has to be expensive. Hata Urupa kunaweza enda kwa picnic nini. Upike mwende picnic. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just try to work something. Try to learn the mind, how this person thinks, how this person reacts. Mtu anaweza kuwa na anger issues. Unaget? Na people use those anger issues to actually manipulate you. Mtu anaweza kumanipulate so that they see you tick off and now they start saying, oh, you're the bad person. So guys, please take your time. Know someone, just take your time.
Yeah, I remember what you said about anger issues, and I connected with what you said earlier, Roberta. You know, somebody could be having issues, but are they willing to really change? You know, somebody could admit, by the way, I have anger issues and I'm willing to go for counseling, I'm willing to walk this journey, you know, so that we change together. But ukiona mtu ana insist, this is how I've always been. We are not saying those people who have issues, you should not date them, okay, from my perspective, but are they willing? Are they willing?
I like that.
No, listen, everything we've talked about today is about intentionality.
Exactly.
If you decide to get intimate with someone, where Joe shall make your decision, it's now your responsibility. You cannot start shifting blame. And what CJ was saying, I wanted to add to that. You know, most times kitu yenye inafanyanga to break up is hizo red flags ulilenga. Hizo vitu tu ulilenga in the beginning, ati the way he talks about women, but you're like, it's okay, he doesn't talk to me like that. It's other women. You just lenga. Ama the way he doesn't show up at all, you have to keep telling him. Na kila saa ukimwambia. And something that helps me see a relationship is not going anywhere is that defensiveness. If I make the effort to come to you in an effort to salvage whatever relationship we have, and I tell you, CJ, sipendi vile wewe uniongelesha. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, you know, that's just how I am. ni sawa tu nini, like any sort of defensiveness. And
some will even tell you you're petty.
Yeah, and not the like active.
Or they even say, you know, then it's not working.
Yeah.
The most
Or you tell
manipulative thing.
exactly.
Okay, then it's not working. Let's so that you fight for.
Or you tell him, I didn't like that you liked this picture on Instagram. Yeah, would them fine, I'll delete my whole account. Bro, that's not what we're talking about. Like, let's address this. Why are you making it like such a big issue? Someone getting defensive or mocking the situation or belittling it or making you feel like you're asking for too much, that already is someone who's not ready to work on anything. They're always going to get defensive. They're not trying to fix the situation. Because, and I say all these things, and I keep repeating, hizi si vitu kuna watu special wamefundishwa, hizi ni vitu sisi wote tunaweza fanya. Hata mimi, I get called out all the time by my friends, by my family. And to be honest, the first thing that always comes to mind is to get defensive. Like, but sini sawa ndaifanya baadaye. Sikujua. Sini sawa tu. You're supposed to take a step, take accountability, take responsibility, even if you do not understand exactly how you contributed to impacting the situation. Listen, you literally don't. I'll lose anything from kusikiza what someone else is trying to teach you. If it's negative and it doesn't work for you, you can always discard it. But if it's something you can learn from and something that can improve you, listen. Stop trying to justify or being defensive ati sikusema hivyo juu haimata reason yako ya kuisema, haimata the fact that you did it. Let's fix that. Let's work on that. Are you willing to improve? Are you willing to be a better person? And just to go back, hizo vitu zote zenye unalenga in the beginning kwa talking stage, the way they treat you, the things they say, the opinions they have, their core beliefs, the things that you ignore thinking that you will deal with them later because you really, really like them or you're so infatuated, I promise that's the reason you'll break up. And you'll be so mad at yourself for why you let it go 2 years, 6 months, 8 months, why you let it go so long, and all the time you kept giving reasons and justifications. And you'll find easy spaces, they don't go the other way. Utapata yeye, mtu mwingine maybe ako very firm with their boundaries. Don't come to the house late, but they'll never listen to you. They always get defensive when you call them out. So you're always in this state of, that's where the abuse comes in. You're staying in a state that's very familiar because I don't want him to leave me. Kwanza hiyo example, Cutie amepeana nimependa. Ati you're so scared of asking questions because now he'll tell you we are nothing. And
so you can't ask what are we? Because you're afraid of the answer.
And you've been washing clothes.
So unasema tu acha tu nikae as long as I'm allowed to be there.
Yeah, and this guy, by the way, in his head, he's just happy he has a friend who washes his clothes. Like, he didn't even take it that deep. He's not thinking venye wewe unafikiria. Ako tu, dem anakujanga kwangu kufua na
unafikiria huyu husband material.
He's telling his friends kuna dem beshte yangu anashindanga kwangu akifua, mimi sijaimuita but you come to na wewe uko hapo, uko so stressed kama ule dem mwenye alikuwa anabeba pan kutoka sijui KU mpaka Katoyuni kupika chapati.
Anyway,
you see, these things happen, like they're so real and they're happening in relationships. So please talk before hata mfike hiyo point ya Netflix and chill kwenda kupika kwa nyumba. Talk, ask questions. Those simple questions. Kuna watu wengine hata unapata ako na disease na hataki kudisclose. Ako na kitu infectious kwa skin kama fungal disease, lakini anataka mfanye skin to skin na hawezi kuambia kwa nini juu first of all ana need intimacy, but at the same time ako ashamed. Ako ashamed kwenda hosi, ako ashamed ku get medical attention, but because you're there, you don't want to be dumped, you're scared of asking. Now look, you're dealing with medical issues over something that you could have had such a basic conversation on. So please, do not avoid the red flags, do not ignore them. If something tingles your spidey sense, it makes you feel like you need to ask questions.
All right.
If you want to call something out, call it out. Have the conversation, speak about it. There is no shame. There is no... especially when you're looking to get intimate with someone, these conversations are not off bounds. Ask them, mbona uko na hiyo kitu hapo kwa skin yako? Is it HPV? Is it something you're taking medication? Yeah. Ask so that you know, so that by the time una make decision yako venye Cutie amesema, you can take full responsibility. I knew he had a wife, I went on and dated him. Now the consequences, I have to deal with
I'm
them.
dealing with them. All
That's
right.
how it is.
All right. Open up, speak out.
Yeah.
I mean, Roberta, leo umetupeleka places. Anyway, as you're almost winding up, a question, QT, it's not as easy as it sounds to just walk out.
Yes.
Talk to that person who says, enyi watu mnafikiria kutoka ni rahisi. Soko ni mbaya, soko ni complex. I mean, and we're also told nobody is perfect. So hata ukiacha huyu, it's not like the person you're going to get next is perfect. So there's that person who is in that space of, I'd rather just deal with my issues, because how many relationships am I going to walk out of? What would be your words?
My word would be, if you can live with that thing, don't try to change someone. First of all, don't try to change someone. You'll end up getting hurt because people change because they want to. I will change. I went to the gym not because I felt fat or anything. I wanted to work on myself, you know. So people change because they want to, because they're intentional. So don't try to change someone, first of all. And if you feel like this person is not changing that behavior intentionally, there are those people who don't change intentionally. They're just like, you live with this thing. Please, I know it's not easy. You could have stayed with someone even for 5 years. You have kids, but you're afraid to walk away because probably we have kids. I don't want my kids to stay without their dad and all that. But sometimes, Safin, it might end up being worse than you think. So sometimes, I know it's not easy walking away, but if you can work on that something, if you can talk to your spouse and you see that they're willing to change, I'd say, stay. No one is perfect, because if anafanya hivi, if I go to someone else, you probably find the other thing, you'll end up kissing many frogs. But if you can live with it, live with it. But if you cannot live with it, please just walk away, because if cheating for me does not work, maybe someone else can forgive their spouse and the spouse might decide to change. Who knows, you know? We are all different. We are not all the same. But I'd say for me, the deal breaker would be punching and disrespect. There's some things I can't forgive, but there's some things I can forgive and say, babe, please don't do this. Na beba kikosa kufanya tena. I mean, we move on regardless. So it depends with if the person is. And the best apology is changed behavior. So if someone can change their behavior, well and good. And if they can't, just walk away from it.
Yeah. The punching bit by there is serious, yeah?
Somebody
can have the
domestic violence. Yeah, it's
to raise their hand against you, whether a woman or a man. I mean, don't just take it like hapo juu, like ni kupanchiwa. Think about what that person has thought about you, and even to get to that particular point. Penye amekuweka vile amekubeba. That is what will help you decide how to react to what they've done. CJ?
It's interesting when Roberta was talking about people who just move in and assume that they're in relationships. Kuti talked about it as well. Because it begins from the end and people begin to try to work it backwards.
Yeah.
There's a reason why when you buy land or occupy land, you either need to have lease agreement, a rental agreement, or the title deed. If you don't have any documents for the land you occupy, then you're squatting. And you may put up your shack, whatever it may be, or you may actually build up your 40 million mansion. But someday, the paperwork will catch up with you, and it will come down. So when you have not done the foundations right, and you don't even know whether you're in a relationship or not, you will always have a problem communicating about how you feel, because you do not know what you're entitled to. You don't know what rights you have. You do not know what you're supposed to expect. And so you'll just bring yourself there and you open yourself to abuse. So basic respect yourself enough to define what you are in, so that you know the expectations, and the expectations are clear to the other person as well. Because how do you come in and start telling somebody, I don't like it when you come late, yet they don't know why you're in their house?
Unaniuliza kama nani?
Yeah, so the respect has to start from you respecting yourself enough to define what you're getting into. Then you can have expectations that are very clear.
Okay.
And then you can express those expectations to the other person.
What are you entitled to? You don't even know who you are in this person's life. Your last words, Roberta.
Yangu ni machache as usual. Love yourself.
Yeah.
Ukijipenda, I promise you take away, you eliminate a million other issues, because you're never going to be able to tolerate disrespect. You're never going to be able to stand for things you don't believe in. But you're also going to be consistently learning. You'll open yourself up to awareness, to improving yourself, to bettering yourself. And when you do this, it has a very positive instant effect. It's like a domino effect on everyone. If I, as Roberta, love myself and work on myself, very unintentionally, everyone around me will also start to have the same vibe. They'll start to love themselves, trust themselves a bit better. So I really push for people to just trust themselves. Hizo vitu zenye una like, zenye unajua unajipenda na ni wewe deep down, go for them. Strengthen them, polish them, focus. If you like eating well, eat well. Acha kukua distracted na vitu zingine. If you like looking good, look good. If you like speaking well, teach yourself. Show up 100% for yourself, right, because it definitely reflects in everything else that you touch.
All right, Roberta, well said. Thank you so much for creating time, QT and CJ. We appreciate you creating time. We do this again next Tuesday. Love yourself. That's the take home. Think about what you really want to allow and what you don't want to allow. And that will help you make a decision on whether to stay or not. All right, this show will be up on YouTube, so in case you missed anything, you can also just watch it again and take your notes and learn. My name is Safina Chengo. Always a pleasure to do this for you each and every week. For now, it's a wrap. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.